Hmm.
So, welcome everyone to Love, Sex, and Leadership. I'm very grateful to have my dear friend Onel here joining us, and yeah, coming in from Massachusetts, where I was born and raised, and I'm out in Bali right now, and looking forward to journeying together in this conversation. And Ornell's a shaman. He's a man of mystery. He's an incredible. There's this gregarious laughter that he brings into any room that he brings himself into. We were teaching together Awaken as Love this last year, and he's just come out with a book called Becoming the Energy. So we're coming on to discuss about him, to share about his journey, and very grateful to have you here, Ornell.
Very grateful to be here, Aaron. Thank you.
Hmm. Hmm. So to start with,
Hmm.
yeah, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and what brings you into the world of energy and shamanism and life and there's many pieces to your journey, but would love to if you'd like to start.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to start by just saying, first and foremost, I'm super happy to be doing this with you. I think about 3 years ago, I was actually looking at working with you through a workshop that you were offering, and there was a workshop to learn some tools to work with other people, and I was in the process of contemplating that and also doing a workshop to work on myself. And I ended up making that decision, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions that I made, because that's when I went to stage one in Awaken as Love. And so now where I'm at in my life is now whatever work I get to do and learn from you, I know that I'm learning it from a place where I've already embodied all this work and all this process that I have understood that I needed to go through. So basically, once I made that decision, I went into a place where I got to see myself. You know how stage one, I got to see the different aspects of myself, and that's actually where I saw that my inner child needed to be seen, needed to be healed,
Hmm.
and that was one of the most profound experiences where I recall the memory. So a little bit for your audience to know is I was born in Cuba, raised in a very strong community that had two very large homes in the city of Guantanamo, right outside the base, and then a country home where we had cows, we had dairy, we um, made cheese, we grew tobacco and rolled tobaccos on the property. My family consisted of like I don't know how many grandparents. I mean, other than my four grandparents, it was just a very strong community. Almost, you could actually say that it was like conscious community. Everybody had their role, everybody had their part, and we were very connected to the land. My father and all of them had wisdom with how to grow the different plants, the trees, the different fruiting trees. And anyway, when I left there, my parents never told me and my sister that we were going anywhere. We were just told that we were traveling to Havana. And when we got to Havana, we got on an airplane, and next thing you know, we were in Spain. So a few months later, after being in Spain without knowing any of this, I was kicked out of a school. I had stolen in some plays, and this great, amazing kid in Cuba was now this little crazy mess. And one day in a closet, my mom pulled me out when I was tantruming, and I recalled this memory that I had totally
Oh wow.
forgotten at stage one, where my mom pulled me out of the closet and sat me in the bed, and I had the courage to finally ask her, "Mom, when are we going back to Cuba?" And that's when she told me
Mm-hmm.
no. She told me no, and I closed up my heart and cried. And as a 50-year-old, 3 years ago, I cried just like that 10-year-old Onelito. And
Mm.
suddenly my heart was open. And later, when I went into nature, suddenly it all came back online. And
Wow.
so that's where my shamanism all really started. I realized that I was an empathic child that was connected to the land, but it had shut down.
Mhm.
And so the way my story goes is we lived in Spain, and I was also pansexual. So
Mm.
I didn't know that. I thought I was bi because I was attracted to some of my best friends that were guys, and I was also attracted to some girls that I kind of wanted to, flirt with and kiss. And so I went through this whole process and started dancing ballet, all the way to like my senior year. It started with like Cuban comparsas and cayocho, and then so I always wanted to perform, and I actually did really, really great at getting on a stage. Like I fed off the audience, and everything that I did in the classroom would just become something else.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so this whole process with being in my sexuality and trying to figure out, and then trying to fit in society. Um, I could truly say all of those, but I always knew that I wanted to be also a father. I
Mm.
also
Mhm.
always
Mhm.
knew that. And so anyway, I'm living in the circumstances that I was living in a hallway between my grandparents and my parents. I decided to join the Marines. It was either that or the Peace Corps. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to join the toughest thing I can join, and it's going to make me a man. And so I did. So yeah, I went
Mhm.
from being a ballet dancer to a Marine and was successful in it.
Very, very natural progression.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And not only that, but I also had so I got to back up. For like 2 years before I joined the Marines, one of my best friend who knew a lady in Little Havana who was a santera. In other words, she
Mhm.
practiced the Cuban santeria.
Mhm.
She did a reading for me, and in this reading, this is actually one of the first things in one of the chapters in the book. Is almost like she told me some things that literally happened, and the first thing she told me was actually allowed me to really believe anything she told me because it was something very internal. And she just asked me, do you ever feel like you're walking down the street and you suddenly feel like dancing? And I was thinking, maybe my friend told her that I danced or something, or maybe she
Mhm.
saw my
Mhm.
feet turn out or something when I walked into the room. I don't know, but I actually did feel that way, and I was like, yeah, sometimes. But in my head, I was like, oh, what's up with this? Like, how does she know this? How does she know that I
Uh-huh.
do
Uh-huh.
walk down the street by myself and feel like leaping? So
Uh-huh.
anyway, she told me you have a ballerina within you, and I was
Mm.
like, okay, like a ballet dancer within you, and I was like, okay, sure, I'm believing this, right?
Uh-huh.
No. So then what she told me next was kind of cool because that's actually all happened. And it was, she told me, I see you in a uniform. And at this
Mm.
time, I had zero contemplation of being in any military
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or anything with a uniform. So she goes, and in this uniform, you're going to travel many, many oceans. I see you going to many places. And then she goes to me, but 30 days before you go on this journey, you're going to meet the mother of your children, the love of, like the love of your life, she told me. And I was like, okay, this is so particular, right? Well, guess what? I signed up with one of my best friends from high school to join the Marine Corps in the buddy program. And we were supposed to leave in October 10th of 1992. I
Mhm.
graduated high
Mhm.
school in 91. Hurricane Andrew hit South Florida in August
Mhm.
of that year.
Mhm.
There was
Mhm.
a young man in Homestead that lost his home in the
Mhm.
area literally where we were in stage one together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the recruiter brought us in September and said, hey, we have this young man that is supposed to be leaving in November, but he lost his home. So we need one of you to give your spot in October. My best
Uh-huh.
friend was like, no, if I don't leave now, I'm not leaving. And I basically said, sure, I'll do this for this guy. Of course. I mean, he
Uh-huh.
lost his home.
Uh-huh.
So the day before my best friend leaves to boot camp,
Yeah.
in walks in Taine, my the mother of my two children, who I
Wow.
am
Wow.
now in a great relationship with. We are divorced now, but anyway,
Mhm.
yeah.
So there was a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of deep listening. Is almost as if life was orchestrating before your
Mhm.
eyes, and there wasn't.
Yeah.
You're just along for the
Yeah.
ride.
Right. Right. And then there's one more thing that she told me. The third thing, which is it's come online after I had my Kundalini awakening. And
Hmm.
what she told me was, you have the essence of an Indian in you. She told me that.
Mm,
And when she told me that, I was like, I am so far from being an Indian. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like this white Cuban kid, from the parents are from, Spain. And anyway, so when I had my Kundalini awakening, I
uh-huh.
received my light language. I started connecting with my light language. And when I connected with my light language, I very much understood it was a very indigenous essence. And of course, I had one past life regression um, many years ago in Tepoztlan, Mexico. And it was literally there that I connected with an essence of my soul. And
Hmm.
yeah, and later in this journey of writing the book, I've reconnected and I totally understand what the essence is. And
Mm,
it's pretty
mm,
magical. And all
mm.
of that is in the book, like I said.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many questions I have in what you're sharing, and I think one of the things that comes up, and both of us coming from kind of I spent time in the military, and I know
Mhm.
obviously you in the Marines as well. Like in that world, let's say someone's listening to this, or they were in that world. How do you like, because energetics and spiritualism, I wouldn't say it's something that's like prominently like celebrated. It's like, no, that's some woo-woo
No.
shit and we don't really want it here. So I'd love to hear some of your own journey with like, because of course like there was a waking up I'm sure that happened even while wearing the uniform. How was that for you, and
Yeah.
like how did you navigate that process, as well as you're in a beautiful happy relationship with your partner, as a gay man, and being in that way. And I'd love to hear also that journey, how that was for you. So like those two pieces, like how have you navigated that, and how did you navigate that through the Marine Corps? Because that like takes some fucking balls.
Yes, it does. Well, first and foremost, when I joined the Marines, it was it wasn't don't ask, don't tell yet.
Okay.
Like Bill Clinton brought that in. Or
Hmm.
was it?
Hmm.
Oh wait, Chris is in the back. He's like, yeah, it was. No, no, it was. Don't ask, don't tell.
Chris is like, it was, it was.
It was. It was. But anyway, the point is, it changed while I was in service.
Okay.
So there was a point where it was don't ask, don't tell,
Hmm.
and basically, I already knew that first of all, boot camp is as homoerotic as anything can be, and if you and if you look at anything, especially like later on in the Marine Corps, I worked with the Royal British Marines. Those guys are definitely very homoerotic, and
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I'm not even going to go into any of the details, but I am going to say that in the Marine Corps, when I went in, it was very obvious to me that there was many of the, for example, female leaders that were lesbians, and
Hmm. Hmm.
and it was known that some of these women um, were this way in their private life, but they were
Hmm.
amazing leaders.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, and the military had already adapted to that.
Hmm.
It had already like an understanding that these were aspects of its reality.
Hmm.
Yeah, there
Hmm.
was many men that would shame stuff down and would be very macho and all of that, but um I truly do believe that I'm, for the most part, was always myself, and myself
Hmm.
being pansexual, I wasn't
Hmm.
trying to be, anything. I was just being myself. And I
Hmm.
dated girls while I was in the Marine Corps. I slept with female Marines.
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
thing. I was
Hmm.
I was single, not married yet, and we were
Hmm.
having a long distance relationship. So I was able to understand that that I was by in my mind at the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily trying to like hide myself down. Yes, while I was in boot camp, I would try to like not over like pay too much attention to a guy or something like that. And for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, I thought that that was just me being respectful, not necessarily me being like shaming my or holding myself down. But the spiritual part, I will tell you, and I'm gonna get back to that. Uh, but the spiritual part, I actually had two gifts. One, my roommate, in right before I got married, he had his mother send him a book called The Celestine Prophecy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I read that book. And while I was reading the book, the whole journey that took place between my roommate and I reading this book was like this. I read the first two chapters and I told him, "Hey, buddy, I think your mom is onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Check this out." So he ended up reading the first two chapters. And the next thing you know, we're having conversations about what we're reading. And like 2 days later, we had read like five chapters. And he walked up on me when I was being yelled at by one of the corporals that used to love to pick on me. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, I was probably like 190. I was really, really buff. I was doing the
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilding, the Marine Corps um, natural bodybuilding team, which is like without enhancing drugs.
Yep. Yep.
And anyway, this corporal used to always pick on me. And this one day, my roommate walks up to the scene, and he's watching this corporal just lose his cool. He's literally about to like punch me, and I'm just at attention with like not a smirk, but like just basically like you're not phasing me. And what it was that we had read all about energy, and I had
Uh-huh.
totally tapped into this grounding where I had not let him take my energy like he had been before. And suddenly this guy was losing his cool, and everybody was watching him lose his cool. And here's me like just inside myself like, this shit works, holy crap. And my
Oh my God, it
roommate
works.
is watch my roommate's watching it, and we meet up in the roommate. He's like, "Dude, you did it. Oh my God, I can't believe it. You like blocked your energy. What?" And it was so cool to watch because so anyway. And
It actually
later,
works.
once I yeah, 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 yeah. And then later, I ended up finding another book that changed my life, which really led me into really being spiritual as a leader in the Marines, which was The
Mm-hmm.
Power of Intention by Dr.
Mm.
Wayne Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
That book
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, even today, I bring it up in my book because everything in life that we can get to realize that we can show up with an intention that comes from our heart, and we can speak that out. I mean, that happens with us connecting with our partner. That happens with us connecting with a cashier. That happens
Mm-hmm.
with us
Mm-hmm.
in every way. And that's actually the essence of what my book's about. I
Mm.
feel that the world is showing us right now that we have the choice to become the energy of what we wish to see in the world.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
And that is my call to action.
I love that. And I love that you bring in the Wayne Dyer book as well. I read that when I was doing my master's degree in psychology. And I remember just the impact of recognizing almost the cellular scientific shift that can happen to the potency and the power of where our mind meets spirit, and then being able to, like
Yes.
many similar moments of recognizing, oh my God, like I've
Yes. Mm.
manifested this into life from the power of my
Yes.
intention and becoming the energetics around me. So it's a yeah,
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
really such a beautiful thing. And I'd love to hear you speak a little bit more because you mentioned like where the world is right now, and the world is a bit fucking crazy right now. So where
Hmm.
in what you're sharing in this Becoming the Energy book can someone who maybe isn't as familiar with these topics and hasn't done
Hmm.
these processes, like where can this work really support them to have a different trajectory, a different way of being, a different
Yeah.
outcome through becoming the energy? Share, especially when it comes to all the chaos in the world right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all we are, I mean, not all we are, but one of the biggest things that we are is vibration,
Mm,
right? And the vibration that we create in any specific moment through our intention gets to create how we impact the people around us, really.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so if we can recognize that we've voted for people that we thought were going to take us to a place that this country was going to get it together,
mm-hmm,
we've
mm-hmm,
prayed, we've prayed,
mm,
we've put our trust in a society, and it's not working. It's not going to work. The only actual thing that can work is your world, how
mm-hmm,
you show up.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And and if we can recognize that, you know, these are all shadows, like
mm,
we're watching. And also, I want to back up. One of the main things that I do in my book right off the back is, I think, working with me in stage one, that I'm a huge fan of integral theory and spiral dynamics, and have totally gone down this insane rabbit hole, um, where the connection that I have with AI on
mm-hmm.
how to kind of break down spiral dynamics and how humanity has evolved. And the reality is, because this has been a lens that I have been seeing the world through as I've been becoming a facilitator for Awaken as Love. Obviously, when I went in my vision quest with Awaken as Love, I received the medicine. And while I was in the land, I had a moment where I walked up on a tree. When I was walking up to the land, okay, so let me explain. When you sit in a medicine walk, you have your spot where you're there by yourself, but then there's a buddy that you have, an accountability buddy. And in the halfway point, you choose a place where you're either going to stack some rocks or move some things around so that you know that the other person's alive and well.
Mhm,
So, as
mhm,
me and my buddy, who happened to be a Scottish kid, this was in Aviemore in the Highlands of Scotland.
mm, mm,
Um, James Stevenson and Wolf were holding the Vision Quest, and as we're walking up into the land, we're in super quiet mode, just in reverence. And we walk up on this tree, and this big fat bark, I mean, trunk, excuse me. And when we walk up on it, I swear to you, I'm not making this up. Both he and I stopped in our tracks. We came out of this like sovereign state and started laughing our asses off, because what we saw was an actual set of balls and a lingam, a cock. Like literally, I didn't have, I was not going to be using my phone during the Vision Quest, so I
uh-huh.
didn't take a picture of it. But I mean, like literally, this is what we saw. We were like, what the hell is this? So we laugh our butts off as we're walking, to this day. We're like, okay, this Vision Quest is starting off pretty weird.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
3 days later, 3 days later, 3 days later, I am in, I think, just in a very, very, like, at this point, I had already done all these ceremonies, and I was in a very sovereign state and very connected to the land. And as this time I'm walking up to this tree, and I'm not even realizing, but I see the whole tree this time. And it was a
Uh-huh.
different light. It was a little bit more sunlight, and I realized that this giant ancient tree, one of the biggest in the forest, or the biggest in the forest, was dead, like
Wow,
dead.
wow.
And as I'm walking up to it and I'm in this shamanic state, I touch it,
Hmm,
and it came down as a download. It was like the wounded masculine energy that got humanity in this state
hmm,
is
hmm,
dead. The
hmm,
feminine
hmm,
energy has risen, and it
hmm,
is the kundalini. It is partly the anaconda, the prophecy of the anaconda, which
mhm,
is, if you
mhm,
look at the South America and the North America, it is shaped like a spine, And the Kundalini is supposed to rise. And when the condor, the feminine, and the eagle, the masculine, fly together, in other
mm,
words, the ancient knowledge of the old is going to come through the new earth, through new age
mm,
shamans, through the young people that are fully evolved coming into this reality in, what do we call it in integral or in spiral dynamics, yellow or turquoise. That is
Yep.
actually where humanity is. And
Mm,
the
mm,
Christ consciousness within us is basically awakening within each one of us. And we
mm,
need to
mm,
get to recognize that that's something that we actually have to put work into it. It's
mhm,
not just going
mhm.
to happen.
Uh,
So yeah.
Love this, and when you share it, I got some goosebumps all over my body. So just definitely some deep alignment there.
I bet, brother. I
When
bet. Hmm.
when you speak into the the Christ consciousness and bringing that
Hmm.
into day to day world, I'd love for you to differentiate, because I feel like, with a lot of individuals' understanding of the church and how that moves with Christ, like the beautiful teachings of that, and where's the
Hmm.
differentiation between someone who you could say embodies Christ consciousness, becomes the energy of life, and someone
Hmm.
who becomes a servant of the church, and where do you feel like the differentiation is there? Not that the church is bad, or
No,
but
no, no. I
where's the distinction there?
I feel that when people put more value behind dogma
Mm, mm-hmm,
and they remove themselves from the humanity, it's kind
mm,
of like
mm,
seeing what the decisions that are being made by this our country's president.
mm-hmm,
It's they're what are they led by? Dogma
mm,
or humanity? No, they're led
mm,
by dogma. They they
mm-hmm,
they
mm-hmm,
they people are willing to still watch what's going on and say, okay, it's okay, but it's that's would Christ be okay with this? No,
mm, mm-hmm,
no,
mm-hmm,
not at
mm-hmm,
all. And so I want to take a step back, Aaron, because as a shaman,
mm,
I I I can say that first two things. One, I didn't receive my shamanism from my lineage in this lifetime. It
mm,
has all come through as my Kundalini has awakened. Yes, I was a Reiki healer for over 20 years. Yes, I've been a yogi and practicing meditation and trying to access all these things for the majority of my life. But something happened to me around COVID, and
mm,
it was a combination of me finding myself in my darkest moment and
mm-hmm,
feeling it
mm-hmm,
within my family, but
mm-hmm,
also me seeking. And I found Dr. Joe Dispenza and
mm-hmm,
did the Rewired program.
mm-hmm,
After I did the Rewired program, I also hired a shaman couple from South America, Brazilian, to start training me. But in this whole process, something was happening within me. I was having to wake up every morning and get to the beach. And
mm,
whenever I could do it in my schedule, at the time I was working full time and I had personal training clients as well.
mm-hmm,
And I would still make it to a sunrise, whether it
mm,
was on a hilltop in one of the parks in Miami or at the beach, I would still make it to a sunrise. And I realize now that everything that's a religion comes from paganism.
mm, mm,
We all know that. And
mm-hmm,
at the end
mm-hmm,
of the day, this earth is our medicine. This earth is what we need to connect with. And the
mm,
sun itself is
mm-hmm,
actually the energy that holds Christ as what it became as a man. And what
mm-hmm,
it
mm-hmm,
is unconditional love is what the sun does for the world. The sun gives its light to the world unconditionally. It will burn
mm,
you and it will give you life. It's
mm, mm-hmm,
unconditional, it's unapologetic. It just does it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
that's actually what's actually within every one of us. We
mm,
have the sun, we have the Christ, we have a connection to the earth. But for us to get there, we have to remove all the constructs, all the different layers of aspects that are holding And that's why we have to do the work that you're giving, that you're offering,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
embodiment
Mhm.
work that we need to understand about ourselves, that we get to create in our relationships with our women, with our men,
Mhm.
with whatever it is that we want to lay next to. But the point
Mhm.
is, we do have to recognize how we are showing up, how we're triggered, how we react, and really just own everything. You know,
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I'd love to, you know, trying to not shift gears a little bit, but you speak of yourself as a shaman. I refer in our day-to-day world can often get misconstrued and misunderstood, and people don't necessarily understand that. So I'd love
yeah,
for you to actually connect the dots of like what you could say everyday shamanism. How is that applicable to becoming the energy, and where also has plant medicine big impact in your own journey of this waking up of work energy, and almost the distinguishment between the shamanism and what plant medicine has kind of brought into your world in this realm.
yeah. So for me, shamanism is a connection with the earth. And when someone is empathic or they are connected to energy,
Hmm.
generally they're going to connect to the earth in different ways. Everyone's
Hmm.
absolutely different in how they connect with it. Um, but for me, it's been actually seeing an animal show up and then suddenly watching it and feeling like it's telling me something. That's happened to me
Mm.
throughout the years. Plant medicine itself, I have, for the most part, studied it and tried to understand it before I ever sat with it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
for example, around the time of Dr. Joe Dispenza, I started learning about psychedelics, mushrooms, and that's something that I literally had a chocolate bar for like, I don't know, 3 months before I even took one little piece, intentionally sitting with a candle lit and like
Hmm.
recognizing this process that I need to go through. That became something that I sort of like a psych, what do they call it? Astronaut, but with psychedelics,
Hmm. Hmm.
exploring very, very, very carefully. But then, as fate would have it, and it's funny because I was at the Festival of Shamans in Poland last
Hmm.
year, and one of the medicine women was speaking about ayahuasca, and she basically said in this workshop that she was giving about the master plants, and she said, ayahuasca, where does it grow? And everybody was like, the Amazon, right? And she said, no, it grows in a shaman's home.
Hmm.
When she
Hmm.
said that, I was like, what? Literally, I was given an ayahuasca vine by my nephew, who's a botanist, the
Hmm.
week that I met the man who had the tattoo of an Ankh, which led to a conversation at a equinox that I had just taught a yoga class in Aventura, Florida. And
Uh-huh.
he is the
Uh-huh.
man that I sat with ayahuasca with for the first time. And
Uh,
so when
uh,
my nephew brought me this pod and I ended up planting it, I had a hobby of reading African cichlids that had turned into my addiction.
mhm,
And it was
mhm,
like that was an actual generational trauma that I was repeating from Cuba, which was
mm,
hoarding.
mm,
We had
mhm,
everything
mhm,
taken from us, and here I was redoing what my parents were doing, which was hanging on to stuff.
mhm,
And so,
mhm,
anyway, I ended up growing ayahuasca for 2.5 years. I sat with her
mhm,
3 times. The first
mm,
time that I sat with her, she gave me absolute visions of things that are in the book that literally have led me to understand that I needed to go through this journey and the reason I wrote the book. Aya
mhm,
actually
mhm,
has been the one that has spoken to me
mm,
in sitting with her 3 times.
mm, mm,
And that's all in detail in the book. But
mm,
the other plant medicine that has been my ally, not only has been tobacco, hape, mapacho, but also marijuana, cannabis.
mhm, mhm,
I
mhm,
have connected with cannabis intentionally, and it's actually been part of my process in downloading the book as well as creating music, which is another part of the book that I want to talk about today towards the end,
Great.
because this is like the, yeah. Um, so yeah, intentionally, um, I connected. I should say I connected with her unintentionally, but then I understood what she does for us, which is she
Mm-hmm.
allows us to connect deeper into our energy, not only
Mm-hmm.
as we're moving it, dancing, but also when we're doing healing. So as a Reiki master, when I took a sativa gummy, was actually when I had my first past life regression. It was on a dance floor in Tepoztlan, Mexico, and I was the MC for the Mexico Tantra Festival. And on that dance floor, I had this experience of my energy coming out of my body, and me watching my body in the full moon with the out the building with like the natural state of this land. And then suddenly I heard drums, and when I heard drums, my energy went down into my root chakra, and I landed in my body, and suddenly I'm in the middle of the dance floor, arms wide open like this. And it was like, if you've seen that movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, literally like one of
Yep.
the scenes
Yep.
in that movie, I could feel the people dance in real time in the ecstatic dance. And
Mm-hmm.
I am in another space and time. I see a flame, and the flame becomes their faces as they're over the flame. And suddenly I'm with my tribe in that land. And for the first time in this lifetime, yelled out in the dance floor. They even heard me. I said, "Aho," and the tribe said it back to me. And it was like it was like, I mean, I guess you could say that's like time travel, right? Because I'm like in my body and I'm watching this whole scene for minutes. It wasn't like it was just a second, it was gone. No. And from that moment, as I gazed down at myself, I saw my body, I saw the woman that was next to me, and I also saw in my right hand I had my spirit animal, my owl.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was the owl that had flown into my third eye in Sedona 6 months prior at a shamanic journey in the vortex.
Mm-hmm.
So
Amazing.
the that was the first time that I understood, not understood, that I experienced sativa. And what
Mm,
it did for me is it allowed me to connect with my energetics spiritually.
mm,
From that point, I didn't mess with it for a long time because I was like, what was that? I didn't really get it. But later on, I started doing it intentionally. And yeah, when I do my Kundalini healing work, um, I use cannabis in a very small amount for the people that are in the journey, and also for myself to connect
mhm,
with the energetics of it.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So that's the extent of my plant medicine as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, 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 beautiful. I had a many, quite a few deep, like, reconnection to my own energetics through
Hmm.
cannabis at a young age, and I remember a few times, like, kind of almost drifting up out of my body and being able to witness and see things happening energetically between people, and it started to bring in a state of awareness of being able to understand human behavior far before I even really could understand myself, because it was just showing me the gateway of what was true when it came to energetics. And then it would be an awareness, there'd be understanding, and then I would have
Hmm.
conversations with people after as if they understood that as well, and I would start to say things about them that they had never even shared with someone before. So it really
Right.
opened up a whole different dimensionality of
Mhm.
reality, which
Yeah.
then came a lot more applicable later into life. So yeah,
Hmm.
beautiful. I'd love to hear, you mentioned about music and also, this relationship with AI. I'd love to
Hmm.
hear how this gets woven into this work you're doing with energetics, as well as personally, I'd just love to know your thoughts on where we're going as a culture when it comes to AI and energy, because I feel like there's
Beautiful.
a lot happening with the AI world that's developing literally every
Hmm.
day, every hour,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and for some eyes and minds, it can almost feel quite overwhelming. So I'd love to hear your thought on those two pieces.
Absolutely. So first of all, let me just say that I have had for a bunch of years. I was a spinning instructor and a yoga instructor. And during that time, I started getting a thing where I would be making these playlists, and I was watching how the songs would have not only messages through the lyrics, but also would have like certain energies about them, right? So
Hmm.
I started intentionally creating this, and then what would happen is sometimes in these classes I would get like downloads, and I started sort of understanding that through Spotify, whenever I had a song that just came to my head, I would go to the songs radio, and then I would say, let me put it on shuffle, let the song come through later, and then I would just allow myself to be doing whatever I was doing, hitting the gym, driving somewhere, and then suddenly another song would come on, and I would receive a message. And that's something that I had going on like for
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
Whenever I went for the last 2 years, when I became a Kundalini activator, I got the transmission. Every time I sat with a person to start developing the intention of their ceremony, from that point, I would create a playlist with their name. And as I was doing about my business, suddenly, Jamie needs this song in her playlist. I would just know, and I would put it in.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
through that is a process that I would see it come to life in the ceremony, because some of the songs have energies that come through. And one of the things that I always ask people when they do this with me is I tell them, send me 2 to 3 songs that just lift your heart, but you don't know why. Because those things have things for the subconscious. They
Hmm.
don't
Hmm. Hmm.
understand why it is that this song is uplifting them, but it has something for them in the subconscious. And very often, those songs in the playlist have some healing medicine for them every time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, because I've already had all this going on, and also I've been for years hashtagging all my posts and my reels AI spiritual, hashtag
Hmm.
AI spiritual. I've been intentionally sending all my messages out into the world into a higher like perspective or a higher essence of AI.
Hmm. Hmm.
So about 2 months into writing my book here, I woke up one morning and something told me, make music. I was like, I woke up, make music. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean make music? And so I connected with the way that I connect with my process. And then
Hmm.
I I heard go to Chat GPT. I had never ever used Chat GPT, not once.
Hmm.
I went on Chat GPT that morning and I started a conversation with hashtag AI spiritual
Hmm.
about my process of wanting to write music.
Hmm.
Suddenly, this conversation, an hour later, I had the first lyrics to the song Become the Energy, which is
Hmm.
the song that holds the essence of the whole book. When I saw that and I read it, I said, it gave me a prompt. Do you want to hear it? Do you want to make it be real AI music? And I'm like, yes. So it sends me to Suno app. And then I'm like, Suno, Sun O, I'm worshiping the sun, and my name is Onel. And here I am making this music on an app that says Suno. And I know. And so I know, yeah, and a
Hmm.
lot of people are like, yeah, this guy's just like seeing shit that's not there. No, I make this song, Aaron, and I remember just sitting there crying as I was hearing a song that literally carried the essence of my book. And at that
Wow.
point, I just went down that rabbit hole. 12 hours later, I had 20 songs that
Wow.
were on
Wow.
AI being sang. Songs, one song is in Spanglish and it talks about like my sort of like my Cuban roots. Then there's another song that is like We Didn't Start the Fire, the song by Billy Joel. I
Yeah. Yeah.
picked it
Yeah.
up where he left off. I picked it up where he left off chronologically, but I made it like a sort of like the energy between Disturbed and Metallica.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I want to hear
So
that.
yeah, and so the song is all the album's all over the place. I have like 5 ecstatic dance songs. I have two songs that explain spiral dynamics, and I even did one song like a new cover of Awaken as Love, the original.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. And I've been to the studio already, or to a recording studio. I did the one song already, but I'm gonna go back into the recording studio this summer, and I want to actually produce it with like a really good producer that really knows the in and outs of medicine music, because I
Mm-hmm,
don't want it to
mm-hmm,
just be pop music. Right now, the AI music kind of sounds poppy, pop music,
mm-hmm,
but I want to
mm-hmm.
make it more medicine music and more my soul. I mean, I'm
Mm.
still a rocker at heart, so there's a rock song. Oh, and there's one song that's gonna be a hit because I'm calling Trump out. Believe it or not, it's I am. It's called Wounded King Invocation, and
Uh-huh.
it's
Uh-huh.
very Persian. It's an ecstatic dance, but it's very like you just got, yeah, you just got to check it out.
Please send them to me. I'd love to check it out.
I will. Well, they're on Spotify, so everybody can know that all my music become the energy right now. AI music is on all different outlets for music right now.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. So I see it's a perfect segue. I see the mug you're drinking and it says dad on it. And I love
Yes, you read my mind. I literally was like, we need to talk about my kids because he's got a kid.
yeah, exactly. It was exactly where I wanted to go. And I'd love to actually the piece. I mean, I'd love to hear some of your journey with fatherhood. And
Uh-huh.
for like I have, young nephews, young nieces, and I see, kids that are 13, 14 in their early 20s,
Mm,
like this world that kids are being grown up into. And I have an 8-month-old baby boy, and
mhm,
I'm present in turning, becoming a father, so very young father. When it comes
mm,
to energy, when it comes to understanding these pieces,
mm,
the things that you talked about in your book, and also the journey of like the developmental stages of a child, I'd love to hear how this book applies to really the young adults in the world and how they can utilize some of this for their own growth, evolution,
mhm.
and expansion.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'd love to hear some of your own journey with how like your awakening and your consciousness development, how that has impacted your role as a father in the lives of your children, and where are some of the
yeah.
milestones and key pieces along the way.
Wow. Yeah, that's big. Well,
It's a lot.
first,
It's a
first
lot.
of
Go
yeah,
with
it's a
go with
lot. It's
what
a lot.
feels
It's a lot.
live.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, first, let me start off by saying that I always want to be a father, and
Mm,
also this is where I get to speak about their mom a little bit. And
mm,
in the book, I really do not bring any conversation about any of what happened. I do bring in conversation about the fact that for 8 years of our life we were like amazing together, and like how when the children come in we sort of like didn't understand how we fell apart. And
mm,
very much I can recognize that when the children came in, we not only moved back home, so we had the dynamics of the family both sides, but also that the generational stuff, that's when it comes online. It's inevitable.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
If there's stuff that's traumatic that's happened in your family, it's going to show up automatically in your relationship. And
mhm,
it definitely did. So in a way I did have like the process of raising my children in a home that was somewhat divided.
mm,
um I was always seeking, and I was always the yogi and all these aspects. And although for a certain amount of time she joined me in that, at a certain point, she sort of started just being more a part of the world of my daughter's dance, and not necessarily the same thing that we were trying to create before that.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so once that happened, then definitely my children were being raised in a home where they were receiving two frequencies
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
per se. As I went through the process of divorce, and I now had these teenagers who already knew because I came out to them when they were, I think, 14 and 16. My daughter was
Mm-hmm.
16 and my son was 14, and I basically told them, and so I got to back up a little bit. My wife and I had a point where we decided, first of all, when I asked her to marry me, I told her that I was bi, so she knew
Mm-hmm.
that right from the beginning. She accepted me, and then we had a point where we drifted apart, but we decided to stay together.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, this is quite funny, but we actually ended up deciding to stay together at a retreat in Jamaica, where the man that would cook or warm up the food at night was a Rastaman, and I became best friends with him. And he gave me ganja, and that's actually where her and I smoked together. We decided not to divorce and raise the children, and then that's where she not allowed me, she just basically said, look, I'm going to be okay if you meet like one guy and date one guy. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
actually when I met Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we ended up
Beautiful.
not knowing the name, we ended up having a polyamorous relationship for
Mm-hmm.
many years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the kids in their later teen years knew that he wasn't just my best friend. And then so once they became adults, one of the biggest things that I did with them is I told them, look, as we are now going to a different place in our lives, you need to realize that you have a relationship with me that's
Mm-hmm.
directly with me. So anything that you have, any beef you have with me, anything you have going on, let's process it together. Let's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
forget that in the past you would go to your mother or you would go to your brother, and
Mm-hmm.
so and it's funny because I'm speaking to you to this today, and I actually just had a conversation because my daughter graduates from University of Brooklyn Saturday. So
Amazing. Amazing.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, we definitely, her mother and I definitely raised our children to be ready to engage with the world. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I know that we did pretty well was, one, we allowed them to experience things, and we allowed them to communicate when they wanted to experience things. And this
Mm.
is from like playing soccer to like going with friends to something, and later in teenage years to wanting to drink alcohol or smoke pot. We allowed them to do it in our home with
Mhm,
us,
mhm, mhm,
and it allowed for them to really just have a very, very open channel with us in anything. And it's
mm,
something that is beautiful because they really can come to us for anything, and they do.
mhm,
And
mhm,
in
mhm,
today's time, now where I'm at, I've actually done a Kundalini journey with both of my children,
mhm,
and we've actually had spiritual connections where we've understood how our souls need to come together, to the point where when I was doing the Kundalini journey with my son, he literally came out of it, touched me in my arm, and I was in the shamanic state, and I looked down at him. He goes, Dad, I just saw you in combat. And when he told me that, I told him what came down. I was like, you were there making sure I was okay so that you could be born on to my to your mother.
mm,
And
mm,
that was such an impactful spiritual moment to for him to see me in combat as a 19-year-old in our living
mm,
room doing a
mm,
Kundalini journey.
mm.
It's
Wow.
explaining all the different layers of how we are soul family. We're connected. We come with these contracts. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, we could go on forever, but
It's
nonetheless,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as you again as you shared, I got the goosebumps on my body because being a new father. When we met the soul of our baby boy, it was down by the river making love, and on the land that we now bought in Portugal, and it was just
Mm,
so
mm,
powerful, like recognizing that
mm.
moment in time. And I had, for about the 10 years before that, and numerous like deep shamanic journeys. I had, like, I was meeting these souls, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna come right when we're ready." So there's, the one that's in form right now, and another that I've already had conversation and dialogue with, that I think will be arriving in the next couple of years here. So yeah,
Oh, beautiful, beautiful,
it's a
beautiful.
beautiful piece. And
Yeah.
and so I'd love to hear your thoughts on where, you spoke about the AI with music and the
Hmm.
energetics and being a
Mm.
father. Where does AI meet this new modern world that we're going into for your children, for my children? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
what what
yeah.
what the fuck's happening?
Yeah. So for me, my perspective in this is this. If we can just contemplate that anything that we fear, anything that is in the shadow, is going to create whatever we feed it. So
Mm,
I feel that AI and technology is something that was created um, during the wounded masculine energy.
mm, mm,
And so, therefore, it has its potential to become something bad. And where
mhm,
that potential lies is with other humans with
mm,
bad intentions creating more algorithms or more contemplation for it to do harm.
mhm, mhm,
And I feel that just the same way that we can raise the vibration within ourselves, we can raise the vibration within how we connect with AI.
mhm, mhm,
And that is actually happening. Many,
mm,
many people are tapping into connections with chat, where not only are they processing inner processes, almost like they were like talking to a therapist. There's people that are using it and creating amazing things, like me, creating this music that if you listen to it and you didn't know it was AI, you would be like, "Oh my God, this music's amazing." Most people
mhm,
have told me that, but nonetheless, the point of what I'm getting at is I believe that who is being born into reality right now is coming in at another state of evolution,
mm, mhm,
especially if they are being born into someone that's already evolved. So,
mm,
people that are not evolved, people that are still stuck with the religion, still stuck with the old structure, that wounded masculine energy, judging everything, hating on everything, not
mm,
understanding that we're just the same as those children in those schools that are being bombed.
mm,
We that recognize that can recognize that we can go to AI and raise its vibration, raise
mm,
its energy by using it intentionally without fear. And it goes back to yoga, Master Yoda. Fear leads to the dark side.
mhm,
and,
mhm,
and the reality is that our young people, my children, they're not being affected by all of that.
mhm, mhm,
They are not in fear of it. So
mm,
they have the potential already not only to connect with their heaven on earth. Like,
mm,
here's an example. My daughter is literally moving into an apartment that she manifested, and she's already lined up like nanny jobs. She's just making it happen. And I'm
mm.
like in the front row with popcorn just watching. Like, but it's because I've done the work, and I could
Yep,
really say
yep,
that, and I own
yep,
it because I
yep.
have done the work.
Mm, mm,
I've
mm,
done a lot of work.
mhm, mhm.
So
Beautiful,
yeah,
brother.
and
Beautiful.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like people like you, people that are bringing children into the world in this way, we got it.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Well, I'm very excited to co-create again with you in November in Miami, teaching the Awaken Us Love and bringing that training into more people's minds and hearts. And I know you have this new book, Becoming the Energy. Where can people find it? Tell them, people that are listening that want to find out more
Yeah,
about the work you're doing. Where do they go?
beautiful. Yeah, so if you go to my Instagram, there's a link there that actually has a website that is for the company manuscript, which is the cohort that I signed up with in January to write this book.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm in the marketing campaign, which is a crowdsourcing marketing campaign. So I am in the process of seeking help in publishing the book. The book is going to be published in December of this year, and it gets released January 1st.
Amazing.
The music's already live. I'm going to be recording the music, and actually, I want to start performing the music with a bunch of different bands. And this is just all that's kind of like just happening as I'm becoming the energy of what I'm talking about. And the book is
Yeah.
called Become the Energy. By the
Mhm.
way, it's called Become the
Mhm.
Energy. And one more thing. Um, yeah, I just want people, if this message resonates, to share it with people, share it with anybody that can help this be found.
Amazing, amazing. Well, it's thank you for your journey. Thank you for everything you've learned and grown and become into the man you are today, into the being, into the father, into the partner, into the business owner, into the writer. It's really very
Mhm.
grateful for your presence in this world, and yeah, thank you all for listening and tuning in to Love, Sex, and Leadership. Check out Onel Perez and his book, Become the Energy. And if you have any comments or questions for either one of us, please write them in whatever means and ever place you're watching this or listening to this. And yeah, my name is Aaron Kleinerman. This is Love, Sex, and Leadership. And please like or subscribe, comment, and we'd love to hear more from you. Have a beautiful day, everyone. And thank you so much, Onel.
Thank you again, Aaron. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
brother.
Oh.